Call the member for Noosa.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. It is a great honour and privilege to stand here again in the People's House on behalf of my home, the Noosa electorate, and all who inhabit that very special place. For the newer members to the chamber, as well those re-elected, a hearty congratulations. If you have never visited my community, please drop by. An incredible, diverse and welcoming mob, beautiful inside and out, even when sorting out our differences. This with a passion that can be stunning and as fierce as our summer storms, ultimately revealing great compassion and connectivity in the calm of the aftermath. To say I am intensely proud of those I represent is an understatement. They inspire me to be better and do better as they do. Mr Deputy Speaker, the election just passed saw this passion and commitment displayed again through our local teal army, both two- and four-legged. A proud movement that reflected the ongoing intent to see politics and electioneering move from deceptive tactics and the power of the purse to true community campaigning. Comprised of all ages, political ideologies, religious beliefs and income levels, they united in efforts to continue the culture of the collaborative can-do, with representation that is focused on people and respect, one that rejects misleading advertising, misinformation and misdemeanours, all disrespectful to residents, which sadly was displayed by some yet again. We trust that this will be the last time we ever see this in my community and that future candidates will reject divisive methodologies as part of their offerings. I also trust that in future the reply-paid envelopes for postal votes clearly articulate who the PO box belongs to out of respect for all Queenslanders, and I will not rest until this deception ends. Deputy Speaker, there are so many to thank and unforgettable moments shared during the election. The famous corflute kings, bonza booth managers and market matriarchs. Many were hesitant first-timers, however their confidence soared when they experienced the incredible energy created by positive campaigns. We also had times of great sadness and introspection. The passing of a long-time friend on the first day of pre-poll who had worked the booths for my 4 campaigns. Trying to hide grief while handing out is never easy, and to find out one of our much-loved tealers had put off having an operation for her cancer to support our efforts left me speechless. This really hit home about our responsibility when we are elected and how it is both a selfless as well selfish undertaking. There are times of great guilt, which I know at some point we have all shared as MPs. To my much better half, Shuey, family and friends, supporters and the Noosa electorate, all I can say is how much I treasure and love you. For those unrelated by blood, whether you like it or not, as you know, I consider you extended family. We are one mob, and I thank you for putting your trust and faith in me again. Deputy Speaker, to say I learnt much in my first term is an understatement, through both achievements and frustrations. To progress commitments made was not easy, however very worthwhile, including the historical ones. Funding for Stage 1 of the Tewantin Bypass, also known as Beckmans Road, and for replacing the very dangerous 6 Mile Bridge No. 7 were welcomed by my community, and we do very much look forward to that shovel ceremony. As well, hulk removal and improved management for the Noosa River, including dioxin testing and progress for our Noosa North Shore overlove. A start, yes, however, we have a way to go, and the rollovers, hooning, congestion and safety of our turtle hatchlings an urgent priority. Our decommissioned TAFE site will finally be brought out of its disintegration after a 7-year journey that no one will forget, and I hope to never encounter anywhere again. To see taxpayer dollars treated in this way is beyond waste. It goes against everything we fight for, including repurposing and recycling. The COVID Works for Queensland assistance to Noosa Council has seen everything from our halls, and some of them very historic and loved, getting the works needed, through to pathways and walkways, stage 1 of the master trails and a community development officer for disaster recovery. The list is long and the funds very appreciated. And I will never stop requesting that Noosa be recategorised for this funding ongoing. And we cannot forget the journey to equity in chamber. With the first of the crossbench parliamentary policy officers commencing, it is the start of a new era and one that will be of benefit in the now and for future parliaments and parliamentarians. Deputy Speaker, as you know, representing our electorates is much more than ticking off the big-ticket items. The hundreds of good outcomes for our community and individual cases that are never broadcast are ones that bring tears of grief as well hope and joy. Thank you to all involved, from our frontliners to departmental staff and ministers, to fellow residents and my fabulous staff, Lisa, Zach and AMF, volunteers and interns. These outcomes are a result of hard work, compromise, prioritisation and negotiation, as well pulling out of hairs. Most importantly, there was lots of collaboration. Never easy, and ones that, should our systems work as they should, could be delivered with greater efficiency than what we are at times seeing. It should never be about which of us is elected or what the issue is. Our role as MPs, I believe, is to ensure departments and agencies have the legislation, systems and resources to do what they need to do, and when they can't, a concise way to get the message through to us about what needs to change. Deputy Speaker, some of these failings of our systems are deeply affecting our community's physical and mental well-being, which leads to even greater costs that could be avoided. Examples are easy to find. Within my own electorate, the inappropriate volume of heavy haulage impacting our infrastructure, businesses and residents in our country villages, and why an urgent review of policy surrounding reviews of environmental authorities is essential. As well, we're going to need plenty of funding for major works that are now needed. Another, we have incredible volunteer organisations that work tirelessly in multiple realms, and that they live in uncertainty when waiting for funding of the essential services they deliver impacts the health of the organisation and individuals involved. Totally unnecessary. We have recently seen the ongoing impacts of COVID with delays to surgery and concerningly with our ambulance services. As exampled in my adjournment speech last sitting, if we cannot get assistance to our elderly in their time of emergency, we need a system that can advise of the delay and options of assistance available. We could have lost one of our matriarchs through blood loss, and a community nurse or a volunteer first responder would have averted this near tragedy. Bad behaviours on our Noosa North Shore require a firm stance with greater consequences, as current infringements are not a deterrent, though the drone has been a very welcomed addition. On the other hand, changes brought in without community consultation is a recipe for great dissent, and one that can be easily rectified. Just advise key stakeholder groups should be a standard before any announcements are made in media. What can I say about our housing crisis, which I have brought into this chamber on numerous occasions over the past 3 years? Deputy Speaker, some simple changes in legislation and how we view housing would have gone much further than the provision of 800 social houses per year when across Queensland 26,000 approved applicants waited. These numbers do not take into account those who apply and do not meet the criteria, and I have many of those in my community who are workers and which, with such high rents, they're not eligible. This again needs reviewing. The current commitment of 5,500 social homes to be built is welcomed, however, still falls far short of demand. We are now hearing, and we have heard in this chamber this week, from many more MPs across the state who are experiencing what could have been averted if those who work in community, co-housing and share housing spaces, that's just some examples, were listened to and assisted by all levels of government. For Noosa, we are now having a staffing crisis on top of the social impacts because of this housing crisis. After the year that our tourism and hospitality businesses have gone through, to be confronted with closing hotel rooms through lack of staff is another result of slow response times and is damaging to our economy. However, it is one that we will find options for, and I thank Minister Miles and the state planners for working with us on this, as well Minister Hinchcliffe. Arenas that are not meeting community expectations should not be feared, and to build trust in our government systems, being independently critiqued is one way to build confidence. Greater efficiency would be welcome not only by constituents and communities and their MPs, but also the frontliners and departmental staff who are doing the very best they can in a system that at times appears designed to grind everyone down through process. A demonstration of this was the recent motion for an inquiry into the estimates process. I may not have agreed with the form the motion took. However, any avenue that can deliver equitable outcomes I will support. The attack and defence mechanism used across the chamber was disappointing and one we need to move beyond. All that was required was a bipartisan agreement to look how we can do better. This includes ensuring that allocated speaking slots are not guillotined, as was experienced this morning during question time. The list going forward this term is not short by any means. Stages 2 and 3 of the Taunton bypass needs committed funding, as well as support for projects that demonstrate sustainability and deliverability for our sporting, wellness, housing and connectivity endeavours. Extension of our emergency department at Noosa Hospital to minimise going into bypass mode, plus the initiation of a volunteer first responder program to decrease duress on our ambulance services and on our residents. That we have the difficulties then in getting back home when sent an hour away to school instead of to Noosa Hospital also needs consideration. In a small community that swells by over 1 million visitors each year, we appreciate borderless policies, however, not when our services are being utilised elsewhere, making our community vulnerable and putting the lives of our vulnerable at even greater risk. Deputy Speaker, Noosa is really innovative and not shy of trialling programs. Our B-Connect pilot has begun providing transport to school for our frail who cannot access their medical appointments. This pilot is self-funded with the assistance of volunteers and is already identifying where the gaps are. Concerningly, it is quickly facing being oversubscribed by those who need daily treatment for weeks at a time. The unfair eligibility criteria of the Patient Transfer Subsidy Scheme is a contributor to this, and I will continue to seek this be rectified, and this was as a result when services at Nambour Hospital were moved to Scoob. Appropriate care for an ageing community is paramount, and we await the Clinical Master Plan recommendation. This includes when access to affordable medicinal cannabis will eventuate. Affordable and sustainable living continues to be a priority for the majority of my residents. Currently, there is a determination being considered around the minimum size of home water treatment plants that will increase the cost to the small size end user by over $6,000. Why, you ask? I have yet to hear a legitimate rationale. However, what users in my community say is very clear. Those who are trying to live smaller with less impact on the environment should not be penalised by mandated larger systems. Their efforts should be encouraged and applauded. There are many other examples where policy is problematic, including those STAS rules which make no sense and is contributing to family duress. An open mind to future schools models that can deliver a reported better experience and outcomes for our children and teachers by reducing stress without impacting on results is essential. Reviewing age practices and conventions in chamber that preclude the inclusiveness sought is needed to demonstrate we are more than words. We need to walk the talk. Hence why I have and will continue to seek independent reviews of our systems and processes that fall outside the realm of the Queensland Audit Office.
Can we pause the clock, please? Member, can I ask that you move that the debate be adjourned?
I now move that the debate be adjourned.
The question is the debate be now adjourned.
I call the member for Noosa.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. And to continue from some weeks ago, Mr Speaker, as individuals and Queenslanders, we all need to accept our responsibility to each other and held accountable for our behaviours. As MPs, we set examples for our communities, and sadly, in all levels of government, we continue to see need for change. And I thank our Speaker for his commitment to better behaviours. Gratitude also to fellow MPs in this chamber and all in this precinct who show respect for each other regardless of gender or ideology. May these efforts and the headlines that have dominated regarding the treatment of women in other parliaments be a catalyst. As we continue our COVID recovery, we cannot forget the lessons learnt, nor the stories from our constituents. That can-do attitude from the emergency phase we must regain and then retain, as already at times I'm seeing it being lost, with lengthy delays through stretched resources. We can resolve the big issues without resorting to the standard cry and outrage across the chamber of more, as ultimately this is disempowering. What is needed is a call-out of how to better utilise what we have, what we know and what we have access to. There is so much to be intensely grateful for. My appreciation I have stated before and will again. To Government, the Premier and Dr Jeanette Young, to Ministers and all departments, to those frontliners, agencies, volunteer organisations and communities across Queensland who have never faltered to rally together to support us and each other, mask up when needed and keeping up their regimes. Noosa, you especially rock. To all MPs in this chamber who work tirelessly, thank you so much. We are blessed to be in Queensland and Australia with all of you through this pandemic journey. To the family of Member for Stretton Duncan Pegg, his many friends and beloved community, our thoughts are with you during this time. Peggy, as a committee chair and a wonderful MP, you are deeply missed and will continue to inspire from above, as you did in this chamber and beyond. To finish, people before politics should always be our mantra as we stand in this People's House. We are very much nearly there, and all we need are some tweaks. More bipartisan agreements and being prepared at times to say when we have not quite got it right. Less politicking and positioning for elections versus long-term resolutions would be very welcomed by Queenslanders. More caring for each other in all ways. We need not fear moving away from the known and what no longer serves us well towards what does. May within the budget we have those many opportunities. There is nothing to lose and so much to gain in this 57th Parliament. Thank you.
Member for Noosa, could you please move that the debate now be adjourned?
I now move that the debate be adjourned.
Question is that the debate